Seoul Land 242 Original Novel DouLuo DaLu. Chapter 275. 7 Devils, Guarding, Supply Line. TL by Bagelson. Listening to Ji Long, the Heaven Do Empire generals nodded one after another, agreeing with his comments. A 70-year-old general on the right side got up. What Marshal Ji Long says is correct, there are flat plains before and behind Jialing Pass. If we can force our way in, we will certainly be able to show the full might of our army. Even if we can't attack, the plain behind is suitable for our retreat. At the same time, on the plains are our empire's 3 main cities watching out for each other. When retreating or defending, we won't be pushed 1,000 li in one go. Shuebeng nodded. Since that's the case, we'll proceed according to the plan. Only, since we can think of attacking Jialing Pass, the Spirit Empire will naturally also anticipate it. Jialing Pass has steep terrain, and is built using the mountains. The wall are 100 meters high and 100 meters thick. It will be very difficult for us to break through when facing the Spirit Empire's army. Marshal Ji Long said. Your Majesty, we want to fight a war of attrition with the Spirit Empire. At present, even though the Spirit Empire looks like an iron wall, they founded the nation not long ago, and every kingdom and duchy has their own selfish motives. A war of attrition will admittedly cause us some losses, but their losses will belong to the armies of the kingdoms and duchies. It will be difficult for them to avoid being harmed unevenly. After the losses have reached a certain degree, the Spirit Empire's morale will be in disorder. What we will do is to control the loss ration between our army and the enemy as far as possible. Our Heaven Do Empire is vast, with millions of heroic soldiers, our logistics are replenished in a steady supply. Further adding in Star Luo Empire's response, the circumstances will only be more and more advantageous for us the longer such a war continues. Only, this is still based on our Spirit Masters being able to hold off the Spirit Hall Spirit Master legions. State Preceptor, give us your opinion. Roughly to what degree can you resist the Spirit Empire Spirit Masters? The State Preceptor Ji Long mentioned was naturally Grand Master. Grand Master said. King Lanhao has already promised His Majesty to assist our Spirit Master Regiment with the Tang Army, blocking the Spirit Empire Spirit Master legions, reducing the harm to the army as much as possible. Oh? In other words, Your Highness King Lanhao is very confident. Marshal Ji Long's gaze turned to Tang San. Tang San couldn't help secretly nod during this marshal's explanation just now. He had no attainments in military affairs himself, and therefore he only listened respectfully. Now that this marshal asked him, he smiled calmly. The battlefield is home to myriad changes. I can't say to what degree we can block the Spirit Empire Spirit Masters either. But just as teacher said, we will give our all to reduce the damage to the main force. Only, I still have some questions right now. Perhaps Marshal has already thought of a way to deal with them, but I still want to remind you. What questions? Ji Long's eyes held some disdain. To his eyes, Tang San really was too young. Even though he also knew that Tang San had once taken the Continental Advanced Spirit Master Academy Elite Tournament Championship, defeating Spirit Hall's Golden Generation, it seemed to him that Tang San was still just a talented young Spirit Master. To be able to sit in his current seat was even more related to him once rescuing Emperor Shuiyat, achieving merits lasting until today. But to comment on military matters, what did he count as? He actually sat on his seat in this commander's tent. Tang San said. I don't understand warfare, that will naturally all be executed according to Grand Marshal's arrangements. But conflicts where Spirit Masters participate will be very different from ordinary wars. Spirit Masters have formidable personal capabilities. They might not be able to clash with your steel heroes, but they can very easily have extraordinary effects on the battlefield. For instance, if I was the Spirit Empire's Bibi Dong, I would definitely send a Spirit Master squadron to circle behind our army. Grand Marshal is right. We absolutely won't fear the Spirit Empire in a war of attrition. Our army is as one, with the entire nation behind us. But, millions of men also consume equally enormous resources. When we are fighting a war of attrition with the Spirit Empire before Jialing Pass, if Bibi Dong sends Spirit Masters to our rear and constantly raids our supply army, influencing our provisions. In time, perhaps. The methods Tang San thought of were completely from a Spirit Master's point of view. At his words, not only did Marshal Ji Long's expression change, Shuebeng's face also instantly grew very unsightly. I've dispatched 4 light cavalry legions specially to guard our supply. Even if Spirit Masters are powerful, they still wouldn't dare clash with our army. After all, it's impossible for the Spirit Empire to send large numbers of Spirit Masters to sneak around our rear. Marshal Ji Long spoke while frowning. Even though he had also thought of what Tang San had, and had made some preparations, for some reason, after hearing Tang San's warning he clearly felt a bit restless. Tang San said, "A Spirit Master's speed and individual strength isn't something ordinary soldiers can compare to. Indeed, it's naturally impossible for the Spirit Empire's Spirit Masters to confront our army head-on, but they can divide and conquer. I believe that just one fire-attributed Spirit Master with strength at a certain level, can cause enormous damage to our supply. I would ask Grand Marshal to please pay more attention to this. With formidable Spirit Masters playing tricks, if Bibi Dong just uses their harassment and remains holed up in Jialing Pass, then sorties once our supply is broken, at that time it might be difficult for us to even retreat." Ji Long was also a Spirit Master, and his cultivation wasn't low either. Even if he was a bit disdainful to Tang San, he still conscientiously pondered what he heard. The more he thought, the uglier his expression became. Indeed, if Bibi Dong really sent large numbers of Spirit Masters mainly to harass, then this seemingly formidable Heaven Do Imperial army of millions would very possibly reveal large flaws. Just in case their supply really was cut, then the army might really collapse on itself within a few days. "Your Highness, if I were to dispatch another portion of the army to station the towns along our supply line, and then escorting it by relay, what would you think?" Marshal Ji Long asked Tang San. After listening to Tang San's recommendation, his contempt decreased a bit. Tang San praised, "This is a good method. But as I said, if the troops encounter formidable Spirit Masters, it might still be very difficult to handle. How about letting me help Marshal deal with this problem together? Only with stability in the rear and adequate supplies will we have full confidence to battle the Spirit Empire. Teacher, what would you do?" Xuebeng looked at Tang San, his expression doubtful. Tang San said, "The Speed Hall disciples of my Tang sect are the best scouts. I need to bring 100 to scout from the sky every day, then lead a powerful quick response Spirit Master force. Immediately ambushing and killing any Spirit Empire Spirit Masters we find, ensuring safety for the logistics. Like this, by cooperating with Marshal Ji Long's grain guarding troops, we should be able to guarantee the security of our provisions as far as possible." Listening to Tang San, the Grand Master nodded repeatedly. "This is a good plan. The supply really is too important for our millions of heroic soldiers, no mistakes can be tolerated. With King Lanhao assisting Marshal Ji Long, once the front line is stabilized and the supply line established, there's nothing to fear in a war of attrition." Marshal Ji Long said. "Then we will trouble King Lanhao. I will dispatch the logistics forces as soon as possible, building strongholds along the way, garrisoning them with troops. Once this supply line is established, the Spirit Empire won't have any chance to raid it." Next, another series of tactical discussions were held in the big tent. Xuebeng was extremely conscientious about the logistics problem Tang San raised, and separated another 6 legions to guard the supply. Plus the 4 previous light cavalry legions, that made it 100,000 soldiers along the supply line, ensuring unobstructed logistics. Returning to his own camp, after Tang San discussed with everyone, he had already selected the candidates for this rear guard. Very simple, it was just them Shrek 7 Devils along with 100 Speed Hall disciples. Only the Shrek 7 Devils could respond the fastest. They were also strong enough to deal with an Spirit Empire Spirit Master incursion, and could even split into 2 teams. 100 Speed Hall disciples were like 100 eyes for them, enough to scout and report all kinds of situations ahead of time. That Tang San appointed himself for this supply guard mission, besides confidence, was also because he didn't want to stay in the army. Of the Shrek 7 Devils, only Dai Mubai had studied military affairs. Them following the army would not only slow them down, but would also leave them idle. Instead it was better to make an effort for the army, wiping out enemies and guarding the supply. This way they could also move freely. After all, they were accustomed to freedom. The next morning, the Shrek 7 Devils left camp. They didn't need horses, and left directly through the rear. Looking at the million-man army disappearing in the distance, Ma Heng-jun released a long breath, looking at Tang San. "Third brother, you really understand us. Being with the army like this really is uncomfortable. Absolutely boring. Every day it's traveling, can't even cultivate properly, with nothing to do. It bothers one to death. Xiang is still better off, she can fly high in the sky every day, looking around everywhere. Living on Sea God Island and nervously cultivating or being in dangerous trials, returning to Heaven Do and being this bored, really can't get used to it. Naturally Ma Hongjun wasn't alone in feeling this. Listening to his complaints, the others nodded one after another. Xiao Wu burst into giggles. It sounds like our lives really are exhausting. Seeing Xiao Wu's dimples, Tang San couldn't help but feel in a much better mood, grinning and looking evilly at Fatty. I don't mind giving you another 9 Tang sect trials. If you pass, I'll hand over my sect leader position as well as that King Lan Hao title for you. How about it, Fatty? Ma Hongjun snapped. Third brother, don't try to tempt me. Authority to me is as fleeting as the clouds. I absolutely won't be tricked. You just want to shirk your duties and dump it all on me. Oscar said. Speaking of, Little San, how is your 8th Sea God trial going? Of us brothers, only you and Xiao Wu still haven't completed your trials. Later on we also have to return to Sea God Island with you, so when are you ready to go? Tang Sa said. The 8th Sea God trial is already half finished, right now I just lack a few spirit rings and one last spirit bone. If I wanted to finish, making a trip to Stardow Great Forest should be more or less enough. Only, with the war about to begin, we can't leave before the situation has stabilized. We're still needed here. We'll talk about it later. Daimyo Bai said. Little San, that you could resurrect Xiao Wu means your strength should have already reached the title DouLuo level, right? Yesterday there were a lot of people and you talked vaguely, what's the story? Tang San sighed, pulling close the instantly paling Xiao Wu. It was De Ming and Er Ming, you still remember those 2 great divine beasts? They were Xiao Wu's comrades. When me and Xiao Wu arrived in Stardow Great Forest, it was just in time to meet Bibi Dong leading people to hunt them. They were seriously injured, already beyond saving. In the end, they chose sacrifice, raising my spirit power above rank 90. Their last wish before death was for Xiao Wu to resurrect. In front of their comrades, there was no need to hide anything, telling them in detail about his and Xiao Wu's experiences in the Stardow Great Forest. Especially telling them about the 2 spirits Bibi Dong showed at the time, as well as her formidable strength. If I'm not mistaken, at that time Bibi Dong seemed a bit apprehensive. There should be a problem with her body, and that's why she could attack me with her full strength. Otherwise, even if I could escape, it might not have been so easily. Ning Rongrong said. Third brother, then that means that the strongest in Spirit Hall shouldn't be that super expert Jiande Oliu, but rather twin spirit super DouLuo Bibi Dong? If she comes to the battlefield, what should we do? Her poison domain will definitely be a fatal strike to the Heaven Do army. Tang San said. Even if I still can't defeat Bibi Dong, if she appears on the battlefield, I'm confident I can restrain her abilities. I won't let her enter the battle. On the contrary, if the battle begins, you will very possible face title DouLuo level opponents. The battlefield isn't like when we took the trials on Sea God Island. It's a place for true killing. Everyone moved together at that time. Teacher said to pay most attention to our safety. Oh, right, while killing Ghost DouLuo and hunting spirit beasts, I got altogether 3 spirit bones. One of them suits Xiao Wu, and she's already absorbed it. The other 2 are just right for you to absorb, they're good for raising strength. While speaking, Tang San pulled out 2 spirit bones from the 24 moonlit bridges. When the spirit bones appeared, the spirit power fluctuations in the air instantly grew violent within a range of 100 meters. With the Shrek 7 Devil's strength, they naturally wouldn't fear someone being greedy. Consequently Tang San didn't hide them. The 2 spirit bones that appeared in his hand were each 1 black right leg bone, as well as 1 white right arm bone. Tang San handed the black right leg bone to Zhu Zuking. I got this after killing Ghost DouLuo. This spirit bone definitely suits agility type spirit masters, you check the concrete effects on your own. Ghost DouLuo's demonic abilities were similar to your hellish ones. Consequently, it suits you the most. At the same time, Tang San handed that white spirit bone to Daimyo Bai. Boss, I got this after killing a 60 or 70,000 year level white-eyed devil tiger king. That fellow was also an overlord in the Sunset Forest. It's similar to your spirit, and suits you the most. You absorb them now. There was no need to stand on ceremony between the Shrek 7 devils. Zhu Zuking and Daimyo Bai didn't say anything else either, immediately starting to absorb the spirit bones. By Tang San's calculations, spirit bones of this level should be very beneficial to the 2. Besides newly obtained abilities and strengthened physique, it should also help their spirit power rise another step, should be close to 1 rank. Sure enough, after 4 hours, as Daimyo Bai and Zhu Zuqing finished absorbing the spirit bones, their spirit power had risen to the 84th and 82nd ranks. They didn't start moving again, just waiting in place for information from the Speed Hall disciples scouting from the sky. Their current position was on the single route of the supply line, and moreover just at the contact point between the front line and the Heaven Do Empire. If the Spirit Empire sent troops to cut off their supply, they wouldn't go too far into the Heaven Do Empire. After all, that required passing a few cities. Therefore, waiting here was the best method. 3 days quickly passed by. 100 Speed Hall disciples formed a large web in the sky. Unfortunately, even though there was no need to doubt their scouting abilities, for 3 days everything had been safe and sound, without any situations. Third brother, you wouldn't have miscalculated? The Spirit Empire might be overconfident, and doesn't plan on attacking the supply line. Ning Rongrong asked Tang San, who stood under a tree, having just awakened from cultivation. Tang San smiled slightly, looking at Xiao Wu cultivating right next to him. If you were Bibi Dong, and had the chance to make the enemy retreat on its own without fighting, and even retreat 1,000 li in one, would you let it slip by? Jialing Pass isn't easy to attack, even a 1,000,000-man army can't break through quickly. As long as it was a commander with the slightest bit of brains, they would have the thought of destroying the supply line. And Bibi Dong is no idiot. Moreover, the largest advantage the Spirit Empire has is elite spirit masters. Would she give up on such a good opportunity? If the Heaven Do Empire's commanders can realize that the Spirit Empire can't stand up to long exhaustion before easily having internal changes, then Bibi Dong's side can definitely also think of it. Overestimating the enemy is always better than underestimating them. I predict that Bibi Dong will not only think of the supply line, but will also send true experts. The longer she takes to move, the larger the operation will be. She's waiting for our army to reach the front line, by then disengaging will be even more difficult. Our army will reach the front within the next 2 days. Bibi Dong might send her people as the army makes camp. Her current army is improvised, not as well prepared as the 2 great empires. They won't easily cross swords in the short term. Moving in the rear is only normal. Don't tell me you've forgotten how Spirit Hall attacked your 7 treasure glazed tile school and the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon clan back then? Ambushing from behind has always been their style. Listening to Tang San's explanation, Daimyo Bai, not distantly pulling Zhu Zuqing in close and looking at the sky, said, "Little San, it really is a waste you didn't study military affairs." Tang San said, "Boss, this doesn't count as strategy, I can just explain what I understand of Spirit Hall. Spirit Hall may have founded a country, but they were still Spirit Hall for so many years. For military operations, they absolutely won't clash head-on where they can use tricks or ambush. The Spirit Empire's standing army can't endure large-scale exhaustion." Oscar said, "I estimate that Spirit Hall won't send too many people this time. Because low-level spirit masters aren't good for guerrilla warfare. They wouldn't manage to continuously raid our supply line. Consequently, Spirit Empire will definitely only send experts at the supplies, leaving their common spirit masters at Jialing Pass to face the army. They haven't come yet, but as long as they dare, we'll smash them head-on." Just while they were talking, a white figure dropped from the sky, landing noiselessly. It was no stranger, but the captain of the Speed Hall scout force, Bai Chenxiang. Bai Chenxiang left with the Shrek 7 Devils, and after returning her strength and experience had drastically increased. Bai he was vaguely already treating this granddaughter of his as his future successor. Of those participating in the army operations this time, she had the best relationship with the 7 Devils, and was naturally also put in charge of the scout squadron. "Third brother, there's a situation," Bai Chenxiang immediately told Tang San once she had her feet on the ground. "Eh? Tell us." Tang San's eyes brightened. Bai Chenxiang said, "Our Speed Hall disciples spotted at least 10 flying agility-type spirit masters in the sky, scouting all over. They should be Spirit Hall's scouts, will we intercept them?" Tang San muttered to himself. "Did they discover you?" Bai Chenxiang said, "Probably. There are eagly-type spirit wielders among them, they have powerful vision. Even if they can't catch up to us, spotting us in the sky where there is nothing to hide behind isn't difficult. Only, even if we were discovered, it would at most be a few of our disciples." Tang San's expression changed slightly. "Tell the Speed Hall disciples to expand the search area a bit further." As long as you haven't discovered spirit masters on the ground, let the spirit masters in the air search as they will. Hide as best you can, don't be discovered. Also don't get into a fight with them. Don't let Bibi Dong see clearly, or how would she be willing to let experts come? The 100,000-man army guarding the supply isn't that easily moved either. Yes. Bai Chen quickly agreed and turned to leave, but was caught by Ma Hongzhen. Xiang, I'll go with you. You see all of them in pairs, do you have the heart to leave me here alone? Bai Chen snapped. Your flame is too distinct, no way to hide it in the sky. And you're the martial hall master, don't go flirting in a time of war readiness. If you bother me again, I'll complain to third brother. Ma Hongzhen could only helplessly let go. The two were now also in a lover's phase, and seeing his valiant and sweetly built girlfriend, he really was a bit reluctant to part. Bai Chen burst into giggles, suddenly coming close and kissing his face. Idiot! Cultivate properly. I'll return to report any changes. Finished speaking, she once again flew into the sky, disappearing into the dark blue in the blink of an eye. Ma Hongzhen rubbed the spot on his face where he was kissed, feeling a wave of warmth. The longer he was together with Bai Chen, the deeper in love he became. Hey, fatty! What are you smiling so stupidly at? Ma Hongzhen looked distracted. I'm smiling. Seeing his expression, everyone couldn't keep from laughing. Daimyo Bai even feigned a rueful sigh. It's love sickness. Another 3 days quickly passed. According to the Heaven Do Imperial Army's marching speed, they should now already have completely arrived at Jialing Pass. Tang San ordered the Speed Hall disciples to reinforce the search range, and at the same time also informed the army guarding the supply to be ready for enemy attacks at all times. Another 2 days went by, and just as Tang San thought he might be mistaken, good news finally came from the Speed Hall scouts. Unknown spirit masters spotted to the west, numbering 50, moving quickly, circling around to the rear of our supply army. Sect Master, please give instructions. The Speed Hall disciples' report shook the Shrek 7 devils awake. Tang San pondered. Fatty, you come with me and Xiao Wu. Boss, you keep waiting here for news. Since the Spirit Empire is starting to move, they won't send just one force. Move if there are more discoveries. After we've ambushed the Spirit Empire's people, we'll return converge here. Speed Hall disciple, lead the way. Yes. The Speed Hall disciple flew up. Tang San and Xiao Wu hand in hand, Ma Hongzhen releasing his phoenix wings, the three soared up, and flew west after the Speed Hall disciples' lead. In the air, Tang San immediately saw the main army's supply line, stretching far away. In order to deliver the supplies consumed every day by an army of millions, the provision had to be transported constantly. At the same time he also saw those strongholds. At intervals of 10 li were built rock strongholds. They were manned by troops, and even provided with siege crossbows, weapons that even spirit masters feared. If these mutually protective strongholds were finished, then the supply line would be truly safe. At that time they just needed to send out a certain amount of scouts, and if there was an enemy attack, the supply army could immediately hide in the rock strongholds. Unless the enemy came with enough force to break the strongholds, they would return empty-handed. Moreover, even if they did bring that force, could you break 10, or 100? It would just mean some small losses. What Tang San and the Shrek 7 devils had to do was ensure the safety of the supply army until these strongholds were finished. The scenery flitted past below, and in a short while the trio had already flown close to 50 li. The Speed Hall disciple halted, spreading his wings and flying up next to Tang San. Reporting to Sect Master, they were moving in just this direction. Judging by their previous speed, they should be about 20 li from here. We can't fly any further or we'll be discovered by the enemy. According to my observations, even though the enemy force only number 50, their strength should be at least rank 60. Since I couldn't get too close, their concrete levels is unclear. Sect Master, please be careful. The Speed Clan's people were worthy of being the ideal scout spirit masters. Reporting quickly and efficiently, even including his own estimations, he saved Tang San a lot of trouble. Fine, you keep scouting. Fatty, let's get down. The three landed quietly. Fatty withdrew his phoenix wings and followed next to Tang San. Tang San simply looked over the surrounding terrain. Forest on our left, hills on the right. Since the enemy is already moving, there's no telling how many spirit masters they've sent. We have to save time. We'll move up to ambush them. Fatty, don't get more than 20 meters away from me. While speaking, Tang San rubbed the sea god brand on his forehead. A light blue circle spread out, enveloping all three of them. Instantly, all traces of them on the ground disappeared. What could be more suitable for ambushing than the vast sea barrier? At the same time as he released the vast sea barrier, Tang San also released his mental force in a semicircular fan shape in the direction the Speed Hall disciple pointed out. This kind of unrestrained mental strength sweep was established with his boundless level mental strength. The Spirit Empire's raiding party wouldn't have powers on the level of Bibi Dong or DouLuo, and couldn't possibly discover them. Tang San very quickly found their target. Leading Ma Hongjun and Xiao Wu, he quietly went to meet them. 50 black-dressed spirit masters quietly advanced through the complex pathless terrain. Even though there was 50 of them, they made no unnecessary sounds, and nobody spoke as they moved. Moving furthest ahead was an elegant and young-looking man, but with a somewhat gloomy expression. This was one of the Spirit Empire's elders, Chrysanthemum DouLuo Yu Guan. These days Yu Guan was always in a very bad mood. Ever since Ghost DouLuo's death, his position in the Spirit Empire had fallen substantially, and the other originally courteous elders were now cold and detached. Spirit Hall was always a very pragmatic organization. If you had the strength, you would be respected by all. In terms of individual strength, Yu Guan wasn't very high among all the elders, even a bit lower than Ghost DouLuo. The reason he was respected and high on the Elder Hall rankings, was because he and Ghost DouLuo had the spirit fusion ability. Now Ghost DouLuo had passed, and he remained alone. Even if he was still a title DouLuo, among the elders he had still dropped a long way. Especially since he had offended Bibi Dong in the Star Do Great Forest. As a result, this time he was sent to lead a team of spirit masters to destroy the Heaven Do Empire's supply line, a mission that should have originally belonged to a spirit DouLuo. Of course, with Yu Guan's status as title DouLuo, the spirit masters he led were all spirit emperor level. The other teams were all spirit DouLuo leading spirit sages. The Spirit Empire had a deep store of spirit masters. Bibi Dong valued this operation extremely highly, and had sent altogether 500 formidable spirit masters split in 10 teams to quietly circumvent the Heaven Do Imperial Army and reach the rear. Tang San's judgment was completely correct. Bibi Dong would not only harass the Heaven Do Empire's rear supply, but even block it as far as possible. While moving forward, Yu Guan couldn't keep that person's figure from appearing in his mind. Even if a long time passed, he would still never forget the image of Ghost DouLuo's chest pierced by that golden trident. Her Majesty said that person was Tang San, but Yu Guan wasn't particularly convinced. How old was Tang San? Just a kid in his 20s. How could he possibly have the strength to instantly kill Ghost DouLuo? Just where was that person? If he was someone from the Heaven Do Empire, then he would definitely be with the army this time. Oh old ghost, I wonder if I'll have the chance to avenge you. Everyone pay attention, speed up. We are still roughly 60 li from the target. Don't get tangled up with the army when the time comes, focus on torching the supplies. In another 10 li, check the fire oil you're carrying. Remember, follow my orders when the battle starts, don't get caught up in fighting. Yu Guan commanded coldly. Yes. 49 voices answered in chorus, manifesting the quality of these Spirit Empire elites. Right now they were already in a stretch of forest. From the maps Ye Guan knew that the forest didn't stretch very far, before it turned into hills. Then they could see the Heaven Do army supply line. Suddenly, Yu Guan had a bad feeling. Before he could investigate, everything in the surroundings instantly turned into a blue sea, layers and layers of tree shadows almost instantly isolating him in a world of his own. Besides the jagged blue tree shadows, he couldn't even see any of his subordinates. Enemy attack! Yu Guan shouted almost madly. It ends here. Comments, likes, and subscribes. Good luck 3.